Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. Trevor Sikkema and Dalton Wasserman here with you guys to talk about the top 101 players in the NFL from the 2024 NFL season. Dalton, I'm excited about this one. This is very fun. It's an exercise that we do every single year where it's not just us. It is the entire PFF staff that kind of like gets together and we kind of talk about some of the players that were playing well. We look at the data, we look at the film, we look at all sorts of different opinions, and we all kind of come together, whether it's, writers, people in front of the camera, some producers, some data guys, everything like that. And we all try to come together and put together a top 101 of the season. I'm excited to break this thing down with you. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, super excited to break it down. And if there's anything I've learned from doing these types of lists, either on the NFL show or on the college show with Max, it's that it won't ruffle any feathers at all, for sure. Nobody at all will ever feel slighted from a list like this, and that's that's the fun part, right? It's just putting it together, and we know we're going to be 100% right on it, right, Trev?
Yeah, and the best part is that even though I said at the top that it's not our rankings, because we're hosting this show, everybody's just going to think that it's our rankings. So can't wait for that inevitable.
We got a committee together. We put it together a committee, and we know committees always get things done.
Committees are in a really great light right now. Everybody loves committees. People think committees are doing a great job. Yeah, that might be worse actually.
I'm bringing the committee vibe over from the college show. That's what we're doing here.
All right, let's start things off. We got a lot of players to talk about. We're going increments of 10. So we'll go 101. We'll technically do 11 here because we'll go 101 through 91 just so I can have a little bit of order in my life after this. But let's start at 101. Again, these are the top players that we had for this past season. It's not necessarily about what we think about these guys moving forward, how they played through the majority of the regular season. Julian Love, the safety from the Seattle Seahawks at 101. Dominic Pooney, the guard from the San Francisco 49ers. Great rookie season this past year. Cracking the top 100 there at number 100. Sauce Gardner, the corner from the Jets at 99. Trent Williams, the offensive tackle for the Niners at 98. Spencer Brown, the offensive tackle from the Bills at 97. Greg Rousseau, the edge rusher from the Bills at 96. Zay Flowers, wide receiver from the Ravens at 95. 94, we got Jalen Johnson, the corner from the Bears. 93, Jesse Bates, the safety from the Falcons. 92, DeForest Buckner, defensive tackle from the Colts. And then 91, we got Jalen Hurts, the quarterback from the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you think about this initial group here, Dalton? I love the Spencer Brown's here, and you can make a case for Spencer Brown to be a lot higher as well. He was the top-graded offensive lineman that we had for the Buffalo Bills. It was a Bills offensive line that I think played really well this past season. So I just love sort of him getting his flowers here, getting into the top 100. And again, somebody who could have been a lot higher on this list, I even think, depending on who you ask. But he was a big reason why the Bills' offensive line was a major part of their success this past season. So I love seeing Spencer Brown here in the top 100.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That Bills offensive line, they were really good all year and gave them a lot of balance. I think a guy I want to highlight, one of the obvious ones here at 91 is Jalen Hurts. And I think had we done this list at the end of the regular season, probably wouldn't have been on it. It was a rocky season for him, dealt with some injuries, dealt with some, a rocky time as a passer, wasn't all that great, all the time. I think in the regular season, he only had one passing grade over 80 in a single game, but it's his performance in the postseason that gets him here, and saving especially his two best games for last in the NFC title game against the Commanders, and then an outstanding Super Bowl finish this season with a Super Bowl MVP. So with the way he played in the postseason, it got him on this list, and you really, what he did to finish the year, it was hard to deny putting him on here, so he sneaks in at 91.
Yeah, and I'll highlight a couple of the 49ers guys as well. Trent Williams on this list just because he's an absolute stud, but in and out of the lineup this year just wasn't as dominant as he has been in the past. Trent Williams has been, if I remember correctly, number one on this list in the past. He was 13th last year, but just some injuries that he was dealing with and just didn't have the same Trent Williams type of year this past season. Dominic Pooney, though, cracking the top 100. I'd love to see it. Just an absolute steal of a draft pick there for them on day 2 of the NFL draft. Somebody who's able to play really well in their scheme right off the bat, and they really needed him. It felt like the 49ers struggled on both the offense and the defensive trenches. So for him to get in here, big shout out to Dominic Pooney and how he played. There's obviously some familiar names that are in here. Zay Flowers in here, just didn't have as good of a year as he has previously. I think Jalen Johnson's the same way. Jesse Bates, a little bit of the same. A little bit of a struggle there in Atlanta on the defensive side of the football. So certainly not all his fault. And I think the corners really put a lot of stress on the safety position. So these are players who have been in the top 75, top 50, even top 30 of this list previously. But just from what they did this past season, that's where we got these guys. Anybody else before we are moving on to the next 10 you want to hit on?
No, let's see 90 through 81.
All right, so 90 through 81. Now we got Milton Williams, who had a hell of a year for the Philadelphia Eagles as well. Man, he's going to hit free agency, and he is going to cash out. Charles Cross, a little bit up and down from him, but once he got back to form, once he was healthy, Still a great offensive tackle. We got him at 89. Bernard Ryman, the offensive tackle for the Indianapolis Colts, we got him at 88. Josh Hines-Allen, the edge rusher from the Jacksonville Jaguars, at 87. Aiden Hutchinson, who probably would have been in the top 3, I'm going to be honest with you, if he stays fully healthy this season. There was a big debate as to whether or not he should even be on this list. And so him being 86, just want to let everybody know out there were a lot of people that were voting here that it was really, you could vote however you wanted. So some people took into account the fact that he did not play a lot of snaps this season. So some people didn't even really rank him at all, but we wanted to make him available to be in this top 100 because I think he certainly deserved it, even for the little amount of that he played. Like I said, he was on a pace where he could have been number 1 on this list, but we got him at 86, even taking into account the little amount of games that he played this season. Garrett Bowles at 85, the offensive tackle from the Denver Broncos. Detroit Lions linebacker Jack Campbell at number 84. Houston Texans offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil at 83. Vikings edge rusher Jonathan Grenard at 82. And then Arizona Cardinals running back James Conner at number 81. I love how James Conner was running the football, certainly at the beginning part of the season, probably first half of the season, when it felt like the Cardinals were really hitting their groove. You know, when they hit their bye week and they were 6-4 and they were at the top of that division, it felt like they were really able to lean into the run game and what James Conner was able to bring them. So love that he's sort of getting a shout out here in this group. Laremy Tunsil's still doing it, man. I know that he's going through a little bit of injuries up and down, but he is just so steady Eddie. Is a great offensive tackle in this league. You know, he's been a top 50 player, a top 60 player on this list before, and so very deserving that he's in the top 100. I even think a little bit low here at number 83 personally, but love the shout out from Laremy Tunsil just being a consistent name that we always see in this top 100.
Yeah, no, I think a couple of things I want to point out. I want to circle back to Hutchinson because this was really the biggest debate that was had about, do we have him on the list at all? Did he even play enough, or was he so good in that short amount of time that you go, okay, we have to have him in here somewhere? Because, I mean, Trevor, when you're running a pass rush win rate in the 20s, even up to 25%, that's elite stuff, right? He was running a 38% pass rush win rate. I mean,
so
he was
so
going
dumb.
He was going to win Defensive Player of the Year had he not gotten injured, right? He was still, even having played, what was it, just 5 or 6 games, he was still in the top 35 at the end of the regular season in pressures among edge players. I mean, it's just ridiculous the year that he was going to have. I think he would have been the runaway Defensive Player of the Year. It was hard to balance, obviously, the lack of playing time with just how well he was playing, and we kind of found an in-between spot here, getting him later on this list. The one other guy I want to point out, too, that I loved watching all year, at 88, Bernard Ryman, the left tackle for the Colts. I think he's one of the most underrated left tackles in the league, and you look at what he does on the left side of that offensive line alongside Quentin Nelson. That's a dominant unit they have there, and Ryman was fantastic all season. So just an explanation there for Hutchinson, and you mentioned it, this group of offensive tackles, I mean, maybe even still underappreciated guys being this low, but fantastic football players. The tackle position, I would argue, has almost never been better in the league.
Man, I think that I'm such a big fan of Charles Cross, and you know we've got in our list right here that you can see where they were ranked last year, and Charles Cross wasn't in the top 100 last year. This is somebody who wins a lot with finesse. I mean, he comes into the league from Mississippi State, and he's known as one of the best pass protectors in the draft because of how great a footwork he has and his movement skills and everything. And at the beginning of the season, he was more of a run blocker than he was a pass protector. At least that's where he was standing out more. So it was great to see Charles Cross sort of round out his game there. It was a struggle for Seattle along their offensive line in basically every other area. The interior offensive line was really struggling until Abe Lucas got back out there and he was fully healthy at right tackle. It felt like it was just Charles Cross, but he was able to hold his own. So I'm glad that he's getting into this top 100. I actually think that he should be higher than 89, which is something that, you know, we can do here. Obviously, this is sort of a staff ranking, the 101 here, but there's going to be a couple of players that I'll shout out as saying, like, man, I'd have him a little bit higher here on these rankings. Going, wait, are you good with this 10?
Yeah. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Just making sure. You know, I don't want to take anything away from you. You got more notes on these guys. Want to make sure that we get those out. The next 10 that we have, T. Higgins, the wide receiver from the Cincinnati Bengals, coming in number 80. Brian Thomas Jr., the sensational rookie wide receiver, coming in at 79 from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Quinyon Mitchell, another rookie here, the corner from the Philadelphia Eagles, at 78. Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from the Eagles, we got him at 77. James Cook, the running back, from the Buffalo Bills, at 76. Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens, 75. Tennessee Titans defensive tackle Jeff Simmons at 74. Arizona Cardinals corner Garrett Williams, who's really coming into his own here in this league, is a guy who I think could play inside and out, but playing very well as a slot cornerback. We got him at 73 from a great season. Denver Broncos safety Brandon Jones at 72. And another rookie here. Man, we just get a lot of rookies in this top 10, or in this group of 10. Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Ladd McConkey here at number 71. Dalton, I think the biggest eyebrow raise that we're going to get so far here on this list is having Jalen Carter at number 77. I would have Jalen Carter a lot higher than number 77, but hey, it's a full staff. It's a full staff that's voting on a lot of these things. A lot of people have differing opinions. I think that Carter was a monster. Now, was he as good in run defense? No, but even with him being a little bit more one-dimensional even this past year, he's something that you have to account for at all times. So he would definitely be in my top 50. Not sure exactly where it would be, but I'd have him a little bit higher in this. But whether it's Jalen Carter or somebody else on this list, who do you want to highlight here?
No, I think, for me, a guy who got kind of underappreciated for the Denver Broncos was Brandon Jones, because even on their defense, we talk a lot about Pat Surtain and the corners. We talk about Zach Allen and Nick Bonito and that defensive line. But Jones was a guy I really liked that they acquired from Miami in free agency last year. I thought it was a good fit, somebody who could fill in, that role that Justin Simmons had played for so many years at safeties. And he was fantastic. Third among all safeties with an 89.8 coverage grade. Just filled in exactly what they needed to be to be the center fielder in that defense, right? They play a lot of single high, and Jones is usually the guy back there. So I think he was kind of a guy. I know Surtain won Defensive Player of the Year, but Jones really glued it all together in the middle. He's somebody at 72. I'm really glad got the appreciation he did here in Denver's secondary.
Yeah, a bunch of rookies here that I want to shout out as well. It's not often we get so many rookies that are cracking a 101. To be in the top 101 NFL players for a single season means a lot. And it's high praise with as many guys are in that league and how competitive it is, how talented it is. Brian Thomas Jr. was incredible for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, it's funny. Thought about, maybe them drafting a corner last year. They trade down. They could have had Terrion Arnold, and they instead, go with the situation where they're drafting Brian Thomas Jr. And I go, I think maybe I would have gone with corner there because they could have got a wide receiver a little bit later. What is this offense this year without Brian Thomas Jr.? Probably the worst offense in the NFL if Brian Thomas Jr. isn't there, or at least it's in the conversation for us. So he really ended up being a savior for that team. He's going to be a major building block for them moving forward with Liam Cohen now as the head coach there. Quinyon Mitchell, what he did as a rookie corner, I don't think can go understated. He was a major part of what allowed the Philadelphia Eagles to be as complete as a defense as they were down the stretch, and that includes in a dominant Super Bowl winning performance against the Kansas City Chiefs. Quinyon, the one play that sticks out to me, I was there covering the game for PFF, and they've got the Chiefs have another rookie wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, who they basically just send on a little bit of a wheel route going up the sideline, and Quinyon Mitchell just step for step with him the whole time, and that's a combination of having the athleticism to do it, having that savviness, that stickiness, being great with your hand fighting down the route to make sure that you're staying in lockstep and in phase with them. And it's a rep like that just reminds you how impressive Quinyon Mitchell has been this past season. Then, of course, Ladd McConkey, everything that he has been for the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, a guy who, where is this passing attack without Ladd McConkey? It's a lot worse off. And not sure the Chargers make the playoffs without him. Not saying that it was all Ladd McConkey. He's, one of the most valuable players on the team and everything. But to be honest with you, if he's not there, I don't know if the Chargers have enough firepower in the passing game, even with as well as Justin Herbert was playing once he was healthy. So wanted to make sure that I shouted out the rookies there as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was an unbelievable rookie class, especially on the offensive side. And for the Eagles to get the two best cornerbacks from that rookie class on the same team, and it was a big reason they won the Super Bowl. Quinyon certainly deserves to be on this list, and I have a feeling we're going to see his teammate on the inside in the slot there in a little bit.
Yep. All right, so 70 through 61. We ended with a Los Angeles Charger on the last listing at number 71 with Ladd McConkey. We're starting off with the Charger here, going with Derwin James, the safety from the Chargers. A little bounce back year for him, which is good to see. Tyler Linderbaum, the center from the Baltimore Ravens, coming in at number 69. Houston Texans edge rusher Danielle Hunter at number 68. Buffalo Bills cornerback Christian Benford, who was great for them this season. They know that they at least have one of those corner spots locked down with Christian Benford, which is good to see. We got him at 67. Washington Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin at 66. Alex Highsmith, the edge rusher from the Pittsburgh Steelers at 65. Landon Dickerson, the guard for the Eagles at 64. Back-to-back Buccaneers here. Baker Mayfield, their quarterback, coming in at 63. Mike Evans coming in at number 62. Then cornerback Marlon Humphrey from the Baltimore Ravens, rounding out this list of 10. Who are you pointing out here, Dalton?
I'm going to go at the top there with Marlon Humphrey at 61 because not only was he still really productive with an 81 coverage grade, 6 interceptions, 10 pass breakups, but down the stretch, we've talked about, there's been a lot talked about the Ravens secondary having such a huge turnaround the second half of the year with Ardarius Washington moving into a starting role and Kyle Hamilton moving back to free safety. But another big part of that was Marlon Humphrey moving into the slot full time where he had never really played much before this season, and he was still outstanding. It really freed them up at corner to play Nate Wiggins, a first-round pick, more outside. So Humphrey's still producing at a nearly elite level while playing a new position and a new role to him. I thought was just fantastic. And, again, he was probably going to make this list and probably this high on this list if he stayed on the outside. But the fact that he could play multiple roles for this team this season was a huge part of the turnaround they had after struggling in pass defense in the first half.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the flexibility that they had with Marlon Humphrey is a big reason why they were able to have such a great turnaround. I'll be the homer. I'll talk about the two Buccaneer guys who I'm glad are on this list and hovering around that top 60 because they had great seasons. When you look at Mike Evans specifically, you had the storybook ending of him getting the 1,000 yards in the regular season on the last pass that he was able to catch after missing a couple of games due to that hamstring injury. But it's more than just the story with Mike Evans there. This was the second highest receiving grade that he had in a single season, in a very consistently productive career that he has had over the last 11 seasons. This was the second highest receiving grade that he has ever had. And I said this, man, a couple of weeks after he came back from that injury, he looked better than I'd almost ever seen him. Like he genuinely looked like he was second to third year in the league, Mike Evans, when he was putting up crazy stats when Jameis Winston was there. The juice that he had, the desire for yards after catch, the focus and strength and determination at the catch point, like it genuinely looked like we were looking at one of the best versions of Mike Evans that we have ever seen in his career, now above the age of 30 and coming off of that hamstring injury. He was fantastic and deserved a shout out there. And so does Baker Mayfield. I really do believe that there was one season in Cleveland that was a little bit more productive when it came to some of the big time throws and the overall passing numbers and everything. But the efficiency that Baker Mayfield played with this year, especially down the stretch, he looked like, again, one of the best versions, if not the best version of Baker Mayfield that we have seen so far in his NFL career. And that's really just quite the hat tip to him. Having everything end the way that it did in Cleveland, going to Carolina, playing on the scout team, going to Los Angeles, being the backup quarterback, not sticking there, signing that deal with Tampa, that 1-year deal with Tampa, and then signing the 3-year deal and coming back around and playing even better than he did the year before. So shout out to Baker Mayfield for that. I think those two Buccaneers are deserving to be on this list here. Anybody else before we're moving on to the guys who are going to get us to the top 50?
I think with Mayfield, too, I just want to point out that I think it's going to be a long time before I forget that Week 18 game against the Saints when really nothing was working for the Bucs, and then he decided to come out of halftime and darn near start a fight and light a fire under the whole field and then pretty much willed them to a win. And I think Baker, look, I don't know if he'll ever win a Super Bowl, but certainly a guy he's already proven he can get teams to the postseason and just has that grit about him, that leadership that a team can get behind, and that's why the Bucs are going to stay in contention in the NFC South. And if they can build a little further, maybe they can make a deeper run.
Also, big shout out to Terry McLaurin, who was not on this list last year. He's somebody who I think everybody has looked at and said he's a very talented wide receiver. He just has not had the quarterbacks around him to really be productive. Now he does. And his quarterback, we're going to talk about him a little bit later here on this list, a little bit higher in the rankings. But I love the fact that Terry McLaurin now has the production to boast being on lists like this because he's very talented. And now he's in an offense that can really allow that to shine. Before we get into that group that's going to get us right around that top 50, question for everybody out there: what's your child's success look like to you? Maybe it's them traveling the world. Maybe it's a job they're very passionate about. Or it could just be, hey, a comfortable living no matter what. Well, whatever their dreams are, big or small, Fabric by Gerber Life can help you help them achieve it. Fabric by Gerber Life, it was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Your kids can't invest while they are minors, but a kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf, gives their investments more time to grow. The whole thing is online. It's very easy to set up. Could take you just as little as 5 minutes, and then you can just manage all those investments right from your phone. Funds can be used on anything. When they're kids, it's music classes, it's sporting events, it's camps, tutors, whatever. And then when they're a little bit older, maybe it's helping them with that first business, helping them buy their first car, their first house, something like that. Starts with just $20, no contribution limits, tax advantages, and your funds are SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, there's no commission fees, just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child's future today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. MEET fabric.com/PFFNFL. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. Getting into the 50s now of the PFF 101 for the 2024 NFL season. Number 60, Detroit Lions guard Kevin Zeitler. In his old age, a renaissance man, making the top 60. We'd love to see it. New York Giants wide receiver Malik Neighbors cracking the top 60 as a rookie at number 59. Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Bucky Irving, also a rookie, cracking this list at number 58. San Francisco 49ers linebacker Fred Warner at 57. Packers safety Xavier McKinney at number 56. What a free agency signing he was. Detroit Lions safety Brian Branch at number 55. Chargers edge rusher Khalil Mack at 54. Giants defensive tackle, or just defensive interior player who also plays the edge. I guess he's just defensive lineman overall. Dexter Lawrence. Miami Dolphins offensive tackle Teron Armstead, and Houston Texans edge rusher Will Anderson. Anybody from this group that you want to highlight here?
You mentioned Xavier McKinney as one of the best free agent signings of last offseason. We're in that time of year. Look, if you sign a free agent in this period, especially for, I think he made $18 million a year. It was a big money contract. You want it to turn out like Xavier McKinney. Second in the league among safeties in coverage grade, 8 interceptions. And honestly, I remember going back to last year and thinking about, okay, what are my favorite signings? That was number one for me, especially with him going to Jeff Hafley's defense to be the center fielder, a defense that wants to be aggressive. McKinney was everything the Packers could have hoped for, and I think it kind of shows you the catalyst for the Packers' success this season was their offseason acquisitions, right? Was McKinney, was Josh Jacobs at running back, was even a guy like Edgerrin Cooper at linebacker from the draft. I think they had a really good offseason last year. A little bit of regression from the rest of their offense and still some holes to fill, but McKinney was everything Green Bay could have hoped for in his first season there.
Yep. By the way, clarifying myself a little bit here, when I was reading Dexter Lawrence's name, for some reason, DeMarcus Lawrence popped in my head. That's also, I was like, no, actually, he's like an edge rusher, too. Now, obviously, Dexter Lawrence, interior defensive lineman, defensive tackle, one of the most dominant ones in the league. He was 8 last year and could have been a lot higher on this list if he did not get hurt this past season. So I just want to make sure that I clarify myself before I get killed. I'm getting killed anyways. Doesn't matter. A couple more rookies that I want to shout out here on this list. Man, how great was Bucky Irving for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team? I talked about some Bucks in the last group, but Bucky Irving being able to step in and not only be a part of that committee right away, but down the stretch, he was the guy that they leaned on in the run game. He was huge for them, playing behind that power blocking scheme there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Malik Neighbors, I'm so excited to see what happens with him. If the Giants have Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold, Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, whoever it is, I'm so excited to watch Malik Neighbors moving forward. The future of the NFL when it comes to the receiver position is in very good hands, and I think that we are seeing that with as many rookies that we have in this list here. Teron Armstead remains one of the best offensive tackles in the league when he is healthy. I think that health is really the only thing that's holding him back from being even higher on this list. And then Brian Branch, somebody who is, I could make an argument that he should be a lot higher on this list as well. Just a total chess piece, defensive player, can play safety for you, can play in the slot. He's feisty, he's aggressive, he's a tone setter. He's everything, man. He'd be in my top 50 personally, but at least he is kind of hovering around right there with this 55 spot here on this list. Anybody else before we're moving on?
I think even at 51, Will Anderson, another great young player off the edge. What a year him and Daniil Hunter had in Houston. We had Hunter earlier in this list. He's becoming one of the elite edge rushers in this league, and would it really shock you if he won a Defensive Player of the Year one one day, down there in Houston. He's just incredible. And that edge rush duo, along with the duo of corners that they have, really makes their defense incredibly good, especially against the pass.
That's why you draft him in the top 3, because he's got the potential to be a defensive player of the year for you. At number 50, next 10 on the list, we got Quentin Nelson, the guard from the Indianapolis Colts. The wide receiver for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, coming in at number 49. Packers offensive tackle, Zach Tom. Great year Zach Tom has had at number 48. Lions center, Frank Ragnow at 47. Chiefs offensive lineman, Joe Thuney. We have to say offensive lineman because, sure, he's a guard, but he also had to play a lot of tackle this past season. Eagles cornerback Cooper DeJean at number 45. Major impact player, even making a big splash in the Super Bowl victory that they had there. Seahawks defensive tackle Leonard Williams at 44. Houston Texans cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. at 43. Cardinals tight end Trey McBride, 42. And then Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner coming in at 41 here on this list. Who are you shouting out here from this group of 10?
I'll tell you what, to me, my eyes go right to DeJean at 45. And I think there's sometimes voters who are timid to put him even higher than this. After what he did in the postseason, too, and in the Super Bowl with the pick six. And after the Super Bowl, he finished the season as the highest graded corner in football. You could argue he could be in the top 25 to 30 of this list. Even as a rookie, you could argue he's the best slot corner in football right now. He's fantastic in run defense. He showed you everything that he always showed at Iowa, at least when he was healthy, and some. Just what Vic Fangio did once he started DeJean, I believe it was starting in week 6 after their bye week. The Eagles were just unbeatable on defense, and it was in large part because they could keep DeJean on the field in rundowns. They could stay on those 2 high coverages. It still, to this day, Trevor, makes no sense to me that he fell to the second round. Absolutely no sense. He was never a safety, first of all. I never understood anybody, move him to – he's not a safety. He's a corner. Inside or outside is a debate, or depending on what you want to do with him. And they drafted Quinyon Mitchell, so the intent was obvious. But I never understood how DeJean got so underrated. He may still be underrated even here at 45. He's an incredible football player no matter where you put him, and he was a huge, huge reason, as valuable as anyone on their team, that the Eagles won the Super Bowl this year.
Hey, I tried, brother. I tried. Had him in the top 10 of my rankings last year, and so it's not really a surprise to me how much that he has been balling out this season. Although, you know what? That's almost not giving him enough credit. He was unbelievable. It's so hard to just play that well as a rookie anyways, especially when you're playing inside out. So big shout out to him. Shout out to Zach Tom as well, the offensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers, who I thought had a great season. 87.8 run blocking grade this year. 16.4% impact run blocking percentage, just a 10.7 negatively graded run blocking plays, only give up 4 sacks, and just a pressure percentage of 4.8% this season. I think it was even better before the playoffs. So Zach Tom had a really good year, cracking the top 50, one of the PFF darlings that we had this season that was able to stand out. Hey, a guy like Derek Stingley, he's only getting better, and he's only climbing this list. Last year he was ranked 76th. This year he's ranked 43rd. I imagine that we are just going to keep putting Derek Stingley higher and higher on these lists. He's somebody who you'd be hard-pressed for me to name 25 players better than Derek Stingley Jr. and how he played this past season. So he's somebody that could be a candidate to be a lot higher on this list as well. And then, of course, shout out Bobby Wagner. His old age, still doing it, still getting it done, still a great run defender. Not quite the coverage guy that he used to be, but man, such a great presence for that Washington Commanders defense.
No, I agree. That's the one I was going to shout out to is Wagner. I think even at his age, I don't think there's a linebacker in football that fills the run better than he does. And the leadership that he brought to a defense that was really put together with duct tape last offseason, right? It's going to be an area of focus this offseason, but Wagner's at the center of it. Obviously, he's got the connection with Dan Quinn from the Seattle days, but he's just incredible. And what he adds to a team between the leadership and the production, especially in run defense, at his age is just incredible. If he wants to come back for one more year, Washington has to bring him back. I think to be at the center of that defense while they build around him, you have to bring him back. He's such a leader for that team.
Starting off with another rookie for the next 10. It's Las Vegas Raiders tight end Brock Bowers, the record breaker himself, getting into the top 40 as a rookie. Incredible to see. Patrick Mahomes at number 39 here on this list. Obviously, I think people are going to freak out about that because it's Patrick Mahomes, but it was not the best year from Patrick Mahomes, and I think that we saw that really from start to finish, even going into the last game of the Super Bowl. Micah Parsons, Dallas Cowboys edge rusher, coming in at number 38. Quinn Miners from the Denver Broncos at number 37, the guard. Detroit Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs at 36, 49ers edge rusher Nick Bosa at 35, Packers running back Josh Jacobs at 34, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert at 33, Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson at 32, and then Falcons wide receiver Drake London at 31. Where are we starting here with this list?
Trev, you know I have my habits on this show, right? Anytime I get to mention an FAU legend like Trey Hendrickson, I just have to do it. One of the best pass rushers in football.
Trey should be higher. Trey should be higher. Can we agree on that?
Hell no. With considering his alma mater, I might put him number one.
I don't know who the voters are who voted Trey Hendrickson too low below this, but we got to chat.
There were times when it felt like the Bengals defense against other teams' offense, it was 11-on-1. It was an opponent's offense against Trey Hendrickson. And there were times when Hendrickson would still win, and there's a reason that Joe Burrow keeps mentioning him as another guy who, hey, pay the man, because he's clearly one of the 5 or 6 best pure pass rushers in football. I mean, it's just unbelievable. In the 95th percentile, at least, in pass rush grade, true pass rush grade, pass rush win rate, just by every metric, an elite pass rusher, led the league in sacks again this year. I just think Hendrickson, if you're trying to rebuild this Bengals defense, which they badly need to, you can't suddenly have contract disputes with your best player, with your one elite player on the whole unit, one of the best blindside rushers in football, and it feels like, too, he keeps improving every year, right? He was a solid player with the Saints. Then he got really good with the Bengals in the early years. And now it's like, man, you could argue him as a top 5 pass rusher in the NFL.
Right. Which is, again, why I think he deserves to be a little bit higher on this list. The Bengals got to figure it out. They got to figure out a way to make him happy. Jamar Chase as well. You know, I know it's a team that sort of operates financially to be their own drum. Maybe saying that nicely, but they got to be able to keep their star players. You have to be able to do that. A couple of heavy hitters here, you know, like Micah Parsons. It was in the top 5 last year. He was number 3 overall. I think just, you know, some injuries are the reason why he'd be a little bit lower on this list. I would not have Parsons this low. Mahomes, again, like it makes sense. We're not talking about guys that you would, like, if you were starting a football team from scratch or players that you would want to have moving forward. It is just how they played in the 2024 NFL season. And Mahomes was good, but he wasn't the Mahomes that his past has made you to believe. This was one of his least productive and least efficient seasons, and I understand that he still got them to a Super Bowl, but you even saw at the end, you know, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, yeah, his offensive line let him down, but that was a bad Mahomes game as well. I think a lot of the stats have sort of saved his PFF grades and his overall statistics with those garbage time stats when the game was already over. So I actually don't have a big problem with Mahomes being right here at number 39. Maybe I would have him a little bit higher, but it was not the best season for Mahomes. Parsons is somebody that I would have a little bit higher on this list, but that's kind of my thoughts on that group of 10. Anybody else before we move on?
No, I mean, I think we just have to point out the historic season 2 that Brock Bowers had in Vegas, especially considering the quarterback situation down there with all different guys throwing to him and none of them particularly effectively. All the record-breaking things he did. I mean, he's already at minimum, a top 5 tight end in the league now? And
at minimum, yes.
At minimum, maybe even top 3. I mean, he's going to be the centerpiece of this offense. When you look at that's a team that needs a new quarterback too. Whoever is going to be throwing to him is going to be throwing to him a lot. So I think Bowers is only getting started when it comes to the production that he's had. He was among the greatest tight end prospects that ever came out of college, and he proved why in his first year in Vegas.
The next 10, we got a handful of heavy hitter wide receivers that are in this group. I'm curious to get your thoughts here on this one. A.J. Brown kicks us off here at number 30, the wide receiver from the Philadelphia Eagles. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua is next at number 29. Falcons guard Chris Lindstrom at 28. Rams edge rusher Jared Verse at 27. Lions offensive tackle Penei Sewell at number 26. Houston Texans wide receiver Nico Collins at 25. Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson at number 24, Chargers offensive tackle Rashawn Slater at 23, Buccaneers offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs, and then Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase, the Triple Crown winner, at number 21. So a lot of wide receivers, a lot of offensive tackles here. It's sort of a star-studded group. These guys were sort of obvious top 30 locks, but What do you think about them being here in the 20s in this ranking?
I think I have no idea with this group of guys how NFL secondaries cover anybody, first of all. But I think the one guy I might actually have a little bit higher is A.J. Brown, and he was the best receiver in the league against single coverage this year. He was just unstoppable one-on-one, right? And that was really the base of the Eagles' passing game is, okay, if A.J.'s one-on-one, we're going to chuck him the football. And that was the case all the way through the Super Bowl. But you look at Nakua had a hyper-efficient season. Nico Collins was fantastic when he was healthy. He's emerged as one of the elite players in football. Justin Jefferson, we already know about. And Jamar Chase winning a Triple Crown is just incredible. The only reason his grade might be a little bit lower than those other guys, I think he had 10 or 11 drops this year, which we usually ding you pretty hard for. But, they're all just fantastic football players, right? And you're talking about some of the most unguardable guys in the league. I might flip the order a little bit. I might get Brown a few spots higher, but just an incredible group of guys.
Yeah, I think that just the shock value of these names, I think we'll get a lot of pushback with these guys being ranked in the 20s, but there's a lot of really great football players who, again, 2024 season is kind of what we're judging those guys off of, at least as a group. That's what we were supposed to do. Having them a little bit higher. I'd probably have a couple of these guys, like I'd try to have Tristan Wirfs a little bit higher with how good of a year he had. It's hard not to say that about Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater as well. I mean, Sewell was a top 10 player in this ranking the previous season. So, with him playing well once again, it's hard not to have him sort of in that conversation at the very top, talking about right around the cusp of that top 10. But there's some big time names that we're going to get to here in a second in our top 20. Before we move on to that top 20 and reveal that, got to tell you that this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Cheribundi, the performance drink that is fueling the healthy revolution. No matter what you are looking for a little added bonus when it comes to your athletic lifestyle, whether that's something like walking around the neighborhood, just getting your steps in, or you're training hard, you're training for a marathon, you're in the gym 5 days a week, whatever it is, you got to check out Cheribundi. They'll be able to help you out. Natural products and natural ingredients, no added sugars, the tart cherry's highest antioxidant fruit and vegetable in the world. So it helps you with immunity support. It's got that naturally occurring melatonin to help you sleep and recover, reduces soreness, increases that recovery very naturally. It's used by the very best. Nearly 500 collegiate and professional sports teams use this product. All the teams in the NFL that were traveling, whether it was over in Europe or Brazil or in Mexico, whatever it was, they've been having Cheribundi to help them out and perform their best. The products, you could see all the products, and it's a lot of different stuff as well. They've got products specifically to give you some energy before a workout, to recover after a workout, help you with some sleep. You can check them out on Amazon, or you check like Publix, Kroger, whatever your local retailers are nationwide, see if they have it. However, if you want to get 20% off these products, you can do so by using PFF20 as the promo code. That'll give you 20% off all orders over at cheribundi.com. So check it out. I've tried the products before and I absolutely love them. So you're going to love them as well. They maybe makes you think that, the tart cherry is going to be too sour. It's really not. It's really just a great taste, and you find yourself wanting those to give you a little bit of extra recovery, a little bit of extra energy. Go check everything out and get that 20% off using the promo code PFF20 over at cheribundi.com. Top 20 here. Got another rookie. This is the last rookie, right? It's got to be the last rookie. It has to be the last rookie because it was our rookie of the year. Jaden Daniels cracking the top 20, getting here at number 20, the quarterback for the Washington Commanders. Detroit Lions safety Kirby Joseph, just a hell of a year with all the ball production that he had. Coming in at number 19. Offensive tackle Lane Johnson for the Philadelphia Eagles at 18. Cam Hayward, the defensive tackle for the Steelers at 17. Chiefs corner Trent McDuffie at 16. Falcons running back Bijan Robinson at 15. Kyle Hamilton, the versatile defensive back for the Baltimore Ravens at 14. George Kittle, tight end for the 49ers at 13. Pat Surtain, the shutdown corner for the Denver Broncos at number 12. And then another defensive player of the year candidate here, Zach Bond, the linebacker from the Philadelphia Eagles, coming in at number 11. What do you think about this group, Dalton?
I think I get to do one last QB1 rant about Jaden Daniels.
There, go off, King.
Look, led the league in turnover-worthy play rate as a rookie. That's ridiculous. Led the league, all quarterbacks, I should say, in forced missed tackles and in elite. Go ahead.
Wait. You said that he led in turnover-worthy play rate. You mean from low.
The good standpoint, from the lowest at 1.5%. His ball
just
security.
Just making sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Trust me, he wouldn't be this high if he led it the other way. No, 1.5% turnover-worthy play rate, led the NFL, led all quarterbacks with 52 missed tackles forced. And in a league with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and guys like that exists, that's really impressive. He was up there with Jackson in a lot of the rushing stats, in the top 10 in passing grade. I think, was it maybe 7th in passing grade? I think he was somewhere in there. It just, to take a team and be the biggest reason that they went from the number 2 overall pick last year to one of the final 4 teams standing this year, with a team that still had the second lowest graded defense in the NFL, that had one legitimate receiver in Terry McLaurin and not a whole lot else. They ran the ball well, mostly because of Daniels and a lot of the schemes that Cliff Kingsbury was drawing up. The impact that Daniels has had on the Washington franchise in just 1 year is really immeasurable. Now it's set them up for an offseason where they can really just build around him and feel like they can make a big push because he's already one of the elite quarterbacks in the league.
I want to shout out some of the old heads, if you will, on this list who are still doing it at just an insanely high level. Lane Johnson, Cam Hayward. Like, these dudes are studs, man. These are longtime NFL players who would have been given their flowers long ago, and yet they are still producing more and more every single season. I mean, what Cam Hayward is a run defender, I mean, he's about as rock solid as you could possibly get in the middle of that Steelers defense. He frees everybody else up to make a ton of plays there, and obviously he's a great pass rusher as well. Lane Johnson just remains one of the best in the game, one of the lowest pressure percentages of any player on any team. And yeah, it's a good offensive line that he's around, but he's on an island a lot of times. He's handling business by himself, and he does so at such a high level. I think some question marks that we might get just from people is Bijan Robinson at 15 over some of the other offensive players that we have here, but you guys got to understand, Bijan Robinson got a 92.8 overall offensive grade from us. He had a 92.8 rushing grade this past season and an 82.2 receiving grade. So he was highly productive, not just as a rusher with over 1,500 yards, those 14 touchdowns, high missed tackles forced per attempt rate, but also bringing plus value in the receiving game. A big reason why he was drafted in the top 10 where he was to the Falcons at number 8 a couple of years ago, and just the receiving production and what he brings in the passing game too. He is an ultimate offensive weapon, and the Falcons got a lot out of him this past season. So I don't know if his name is going to sort of raise some eyebrows with him being in the top 15 and this high, but there's a reason, man. I mean, his season was fantastic.
Yeah, no, the Falcons certainly have an offensive core that's pretty enticing when you talk about Michael Penix and what we saw from him, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Darnell Mooney with a resurgent season, that great offensive line. I think the Falcons are in really good shape on offense. I was looking at something here. I was thinking about Lane Johnson. We can agree. Lane Johnson's going to the Hall of Fame one day, right? Like, no question. Yes. I just want to know, for as much as has been always made about, okay, left tackles. I think we need somebody to look up for us. How many true right tackles are in the Hall of Fame? Because this is going to get to be a pretty new thing here. If Lane Johnson keeps doing, well, obviously he's already going to be there. If a guy like Penei Sewell stays on the right side his whole career and keeps doing what he's doing, I think we might finally be getting some justice here for right tackles. And it can't just be assumed that they're worse than left tackles. Just because the better player's always been put on the left side doesn't mean you can't have someone great on the other side too. So I think that's something we got to find that. We got to look up how many actual right tackles, or at least for the majority of their career, right tackles are in the Hall of Fame right now, because Lane Johnson's going to be one of them. And I wouldn't think he'd be the first one after, for as long as football's been around. But I mean, he's certainly one of the best to ever do it, and he just doesn't seem to slow down.
Yeah, he is absolutely a Hall of Famer one day. And I think that's an interesting point that you bring up. It's some interesting research to have happened. And, when we get to the point where I think these guys are coming up for Hall of Fame bids and Hall of Fame votes, I think that we will have understood how the game has evolved, where a lot of teams, you're not protecting the quote-unquote blind side of a quarterback, but a lot of defensive teams have over the last 10 years said, all right, well, your better offensive tackles, your left tackle, so I'm going to put my best pass rusher against the right tackle, and it's sort of demanded teams to have both a right and a left tackle that they really depend on. And so I think that or at least I certainly hope that the voters take that into account when looking at a Hall of Fame career like Lane Johnson. The top 10, let's do the top 10 here. Starting off the top 10, we have Saquon Barkley, the running back from the Philadelphia Eagles. Just an insanely productive record-breaking season from him. Pittsburgh Steelers edge rusher TJ Watt comes in at number 9. Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones at number 8. Chiefs center Creed Humphrey at number 7, Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills at number 6, Derrick Henry from the Ravens at number 5, Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals at number 4, Jordan Mailata from the Philadelphia Eagles. Insanely high grades this year, just insanely high. We have him at number 3, Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns at number 2. And then number 1, the player that we gave the Offensive Player of the Year, the MVP, and the Dwight Stevenson Award to, quarterback Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens. Any argument at number 1 from you, Dalton, before we get to maybe some other names that are in the top 10?
No, I don't have any. And, a stat that I found, and I found a few stats on these top 10 that are just incredible, but one for Jackson that I didn't even realize till I went back and looked at it. He's the first quarterback in PFF history to have a 90 passing grade and a 90 rushing grade in the same season.
I believe it because that's damn near impossible to do.
It makes almost no sense at all. There was a year, actually, where Patrick Mahomes came very close to it, but no one's ever done it before this year and what Lamar Jackson's done. So, look, I understand all of the MVP arguments, and I'm totally cool with Josh Allen winning it for the value he brings and kind of the lesser supporting cast that he had with the Bills. But Jackson, the numbers are just off the charts, right? New career high in big-time throw rate, new career low in turnover-worthy play rate, 40 explosive runs, which is just ridiculous. I mean, there's not much more you can say about Lamar. A handful of other stats I want to throw out there too. Josh Allen, first quarterback in PFF history to have a 90-plus grade in 5 straight seasons, passes up Tom Brady, who did it from 2015 to 2018. And I got a fun one on Creed Humphrey too.
Okay.
92.4 overall grade this season. That's the best in the NFL for a center since Jason Kelce in 2017. Which is the kind of company he's keeping it. And you want to know how good Humphrey's been across his first 4 seasons? He's been so good that the only center in career overall grade that he trails for the entire history of PFF since 2006 is Nick Mangold. He's got the second best overall grade for his career in PFF history already through his first 4 years. The best center in football now. He's kind of taken that mantle from Jason Kelce. And I'll tell you what, I know we have a lot of talk to be had about the Chiefs and their offensive tackles and the pass protection, all that. But Creed Humphrey is going to be a constant, most likely for the next decade, and he's going to be the best center in football for a long time.
He is just so steady, man. I mean, he's just always excellent at his job, and so you got to believe that he's going to continue to do so because he's got the ability to do so. I'll shout out Jordan Mailata too, our highest graded player of any player here on this list, a 96.2 overall grade. He had a 94.5 run blocking grade, a 90.8 pass blocking grade. His teammate Lane Johnson was better than him in the pass blocking category. Lane Johnson had a 2.6 pressure percentage allowed, and Mailata had a 4.0. Mailata also missed a couple of games there in the middle of the season, which were against some good competition. Micah Parsons is one of them there. So you sort of take that into account when we were giving away the awards here. But him being in the top 5 because of how dominant he was as a run blocker and a pass protector. That is why he is in the top 3, and that is why he was at number 3. I think a lot of people might look at him above a Josh Allen and a Joe Burrow and again, sort of raise some eyebrows, but that is why he was the highest graded player that we had this season, and that's over the course of 1,000 snaps that he played. So it's not a small sample size at all whatsoever. Anybody else that we're shouting out here before we get out of here?
2 things. One, on Mailata's grade, also the only player, or I should say the only offensive lineman who's ever recorded a higher grade in a single season was Trent Williams in 2021. So it's a really historical season that he had. And then I think it just jumps out at me with regards to the offseason that Myles Garrett's sitting there at number 2 with the best defensive player in football still, especially, according to the voting here, obviously 1 spot behind Lamar Jackson for the top overall spot, and he's got a trade request open, right? So this is the type of player that you're getting, and why I say he's really the story of the offseason, because if somebody were to get Myles Garrett away from Cleveland, you would really change the look of your entire defense and your entire team.
I begrudgingly say that we would love to hear from you. We know you got takes on these lists. We know you got takes on rankings. So let us know in the comment section, whether it's in the one-off videos or for the live show. The one-on-one's always a lot of fun to do. Shout out everybody who got involved over at PFF and got it in on sort of the total staff. 101 best players from the 2024 NFL season. This is a lot of fun. For Dalton Wasserman, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thank you guys so much for watching the PFF NFL show. We will see you guys next time.